gun-toting teenagers are now so rampant in Manchester's Moss Side that terrified parents call it the Bronx of Britain. Locals live in fear of getting caught in the crossfire as rival drug gangs stage bloody gunfights in the streets. On March 12, 2006, the Brass Handles pub on Edge Hill Close in Pendleton, Salford, was the scene of a notorious gangland double murder that would shock Great Britain. Two men looked on edge as they were pushed out of a car and directed towards the infamous Brass Handles pub in Manchester, England. A witness would later say they appeared reluctant to go inside. Richard Austin, 19, and Carlton Alveranga, 20, both from Moss Side and members of the Doddington gang, were carrying handguns and had been recruited or possibly ordered to carry out the assassination. Their target was David Totten. His friend Aaron Travers was also shot protecting him. They were sat inside a packed pub as punters watched the Easter Sunday holiday football match between Manchester United and Newcastle. The hitmen burst into the pub at 2:15 p.m, wearing masks just before the halftime whistle blew, and headed towards Totten, who was drinking at a table with Travers. It is believed Austin fired 6 shots from a Bacow pistol, 5 hitting the two men and another blasting the wall. Alveranga's 9mm handgun jammed. They were jumped on by people in the pub and disarmed. A known Moss Side gangster in the pub is suspected of shooting the hitmen with their own weapons before they staggered outside and were beaten as they lay dying. It is believed a Glock pistol carried by Alveranga or by someone else in the pub was fired. Before police arrived, CCTV had been removed from the pub. Both men died from single gunshots to the chest. Totten and Travers were severely injured but survived. They refused to cooperate with police. It is believed the planned executions were arranged due to a loss of face suffered by Spears after a petty dispute between him and Totten over admission into a Manchester nightclub. A bullet from the Glock was recovered from each body. Neither of the guns were ever found. Bobby Spears, 41, a security boss who was said to have organised the hit from an executive box at a Manchester United game, fled to Spain just days after the botched hit. He was extradited and jailed for life in May 2009. Police believe Spears recruited Ian McLeod, a boss of the notorious South Manchester Doddington gang, who provided the hitmen Austin and Alveranga. Drug lord McLeod from Radcliffe, who ran IMAX Security, and the two hitmen were seen driving around in a dark Ford Mondeo in the months leading up to the killings. Alveranga's mother would later say her son had spent 4 years in jail. While he was inside, she received a phone call from McLeod, who wanted a so-called visitor's order so he could arrange to see Carlton about security work when released. Mobile phone records show that on the day of the shooting, March 12th, Austin received 3 calls from 43-year-old McLeod. Austin picked up McLeod and were captured on CCTV at Asda supermarket in Radcliffe, filling the Mondeo with petrol. They then travelled to Kearsley to pick up another man before heading back to Moss Side to collect Alveranga. They arrived at Brass Handles 2 hours later when McLeod called Constance Haworth from Salford, who was acting as a spotter inside the pub. Haworth, 39, a secretary for Salford's Mr. Big Paul Massey security firm PMS, was said to have slipped away into the ladies' toilets as the would-be hitmen entered the pub. On July 26, 2015, Paul Massey was shot up to 20 times moments after parking his car outside his home in Manchester. Haworth had ties to Glasgow's criminal underworld as well as Greater Manchester. She was jailed in 1998 after police found machine guns and explosives in the boot of her car following a surveillance operation involving MI5 as she drove from London to Manchester. A box of weapons had been exchanged for an envelope of cash handed over by Glasgow gangster Paul Ferris. Ferris was also an associate of the late Massey and was jailed for 10 years for the same offence as Haworth. To this day, no one has ever been brought to justice for the killing of Alveranga and Austin, who were believed to be in debt of the Doddington gang boss McLeod, who organised the hit. It was said they wasn't going to be paid for the hit, but rather get McLeod off their backs. Spears was said to have paid McLeod £10,000 for the hit. Constance Howarth was jailed for a minimum of 20 years. Years later, she would try to appeal her case to get out of jail by blaming the Gooch and Doddington gangs for the two killings. McLeod was handed a minimum sentence of 21 years. In 2009, Marcus Callahan was named as being a person of interest in connection with the murders of Austin and Alveranga. He has never been charged in connection with the shootings, but in 2018, he was jailed for 24 years for operating a multi-million-pound drugs operation from a flat in Canal View, Stalybridge. Police seized heroin, cocaine, and cannabis with a street value of £32 million. At around 3 AM on August 31st, 2014, David Totten, who has a well-known history of violence and has 80 previous offences on his record, drove his car into Club Live after his friend was refused entry. In 2007, Totten was jailed for 4.5 years after he and 3 friends viciously attacked 2 car park attendants after they were kicked out of the Grosvenor Casino at Bury New Road. Totten has been banned from all Manchester City pubs and clubs for 2 years for his behaviour.